Hi, and welcome back to Life Hope Talks. I am Selena. We're continuing our series on closure. Very recently, someone asked me what were my perspectives on entering a rebound relationship. So, is getting into a rebound relationship a good idea when you don't have closure? So many of you might be aware of, or know, or have even experienced a rebound relationship. And that's when you sort of just jump into a new romantic relationship when you know you're not quite over the past relationship. You're still having some challenges, you're still struggling, but yet you decide to move on to a new romantic relationship. So, is it a good idea to get into a rebound relationship? Well, I found that some research supports it. They say it's a good idea to do it because it helps you to move on or get over the past relationship. But for me, my personal opinion and what I think are some important things to consider. One would be those feelings of abandonment. Because often when someone uproot themselves abruptly out of your life, or they completely disappeared, or they're just a really bad breakup, it is very common for you to feel abandoned. You know, you spent a lot of time in that relationship. You had a lot of hopes, dreams. You saw yourself in the future being with that person. So when it ends in such a way where the person just kind of snatched themselves out of your life, it is very common to feel abandoned. And what can abandonment look like when you try to move on into a relationship? It can be, well, when you get into a relationship, you have that new person, you have someone that is showing you attention, they want you, they're interested in you, they're checking on you, you're having these wonderful conversations. But when you're still dealing with abandonment, it can have you kind of apprehensive and keeping your distance from the person. On one hand, it feels good to be wanted and to have someone to say all of these wonderful things to you. But then on the other hand, you're still kind of raw from the exeter when he or she left your life, the way that they left your life. So it feels good to have someone, but then again, when you're dealing with abandonment, then you're like, you're kind of keeping that wall there. You're not really going to begin to invest yourself because you're wondering if that relationship would end up the way that the previous relationship ended. Abandonment can also look completely polar opposite of that. It can look like you meet someone, he or she, they're saying all the right things, they're showing the type of character and things that you want in a person. So you become clingy. You grab on to that person. You're always over there, you're always calling. You continue to look for evidence that the person is into you or they feel like the relationship is going well. So abandonment can show itself very differently. Those are just two examples, but it can certainly show up in different ways. But I think abandonment is something that really you should pay attention to when you're talking about jumping into another relationship or starting another relationship. We can certainly see how research says that it's a good idea and how it can help you get over the ex or the past relationship, because when you're in a new relationship, you're usually spending time thinking about that person. You're talking, you're texting, you're video chatting, you're showing affection to each other. It's exciting. It's a new person. It's a new opportunity. So it will distract your thoughts where you're not thinking about the exeter as much. because your thoughts are on the new relationship and the new person. However, in those moments when you're alone and there's quiet time, often you think about how the relationship ended. You think about the exeter and how they did you and all the things that they said. So you emotionally, you're still raw. You're still thinking about what happened in that past relationship, although you're in a rebound relationship. So we can see, thinking along those lines, we can see how research says, well, it's a good idea because it'll help you get over your ex, and you'll be able to move on much faster. It doesn't negate that you will still have those raw emotions, and that it's important for you to tend to those emotions such as abandonment and trust. Those are two really big emotions that we really should tend to when a relationship does not work. Something else that I think is important to pay attention to is being upfront with the new person of interest. Well, you might say, well, if I tell him or her that I was in a bad relationship or there was a bad breakup, then I lose out on the opportunity to develop something new. Well, that is a possibility, that if you are upfront and you tell that new person that you had a bad breakup, and you give them some of the details as to what happened, there is a possibility that the new person might want to just be friends and not try to move on into anything. There is that possibility. But something that I would like for you to think of is, what if it were you? It's nothing like meeting someone and getting excited at what they're bringing to the table, and the conversation is right, the vibe is really good, you're flowing well, it seems like you're very compatible, you're spending time with each other, you're laughing, and it's just wonderful. You begin to invest yourself in this new relationship, and then imagine 4, 5, 6 months down the line, you're ready to have this conversation about being exclusive and moving towards commitment, and the person says, oh, I'm not ready for that, I just got out of a relationship before you, and the person never told you. So here you are, and opened yourself up. You started to open up your heart to this person. You're starting to, invest in that relationship, only to be told later, after you begin to make these investments into the new relationship, only to be told that the person isn't ready because they came out of a bad breakup. So if you can think about that, if it were you, would you want that to be done? So I know some, again, will say, well, they really don't want to really tell the new person that because they don't want to miss the opportunity to move on. Well, consider that. What if it were you? Would you want to be in a relationship and be excited about someone only to be told months later, after you begin to invest yourself into the relationship or into the person, that they're not ready because they had a bad breakup when they should have told you this a long time ago? So it's just something else for you to consider when you are seeking closure and you're just trying to move on with your life. It's very important that we tend to our heart matters and our emotions and our feelings. And a mental health counselor can be very, very helpful in such cases because they can help you process. Involves talking about what happened. It involves supporting you while you're going through those raw emotions, and just helping you put those pieces back together so that you can move on with your life and not get into relationships And because you haven't dealt with your emotions from previous occurrences in relationships, you take it to the new relationship. Sometimes I'm sure you've had friends or you've heard of people where when they get into relationships, those relationships just seem to not work. Each one just seems to not work. And it seems like they're trying, but it's just not working. That's a very good sign to get to a mental health counselor. Mental health counselors are not just for people who have severe mental illnesses. Truth be told, we all qualify for some mental health counseling at some point in our lives. Whether someone uproot themselves out of our life abruptly, or if they decide to disappear for some reason and we don't know what happened, when we're changing jobs, if we lose a loved one has passed away, we've lost a friendship, lost pets. I mean, we've all have experienced some things in our life where a mental health counselor could be very helpful to help us deal with the emotions that we feel, so that when we move on to a new relationship, we don't, I don't want to say sabotage it, but we don't want to end it before it even begins. And often that can happen when we don't tend to the matters in our heart and we're jumping into new relationships. Now, you might say, well, when is a good time to get into a new relationship, to move on to a new opportunity to build a romantic relationship? Again, there is research out there that says somewhere between 3 and 6 months after a serious relationship has ended, it's a good idea to try to move on and jump in and get into a new relationship. My thoughts are, you are the expert of you, and when you're really ready to move on with a relationship. And if 6 months has gone by or a year has gone by and you find yourself still not ready, then you're just not ready. My hope would be is that you will connect yourself with a mental health counselor to kind of help you deal with, what you're dealing with, and possibly why you don't feel like you're ready to move on. Again, mental health counselors can be very, very helpful. It does not mean that you have to have a mental disorder or diagnosis. We all can qualify for mental health counseling and can benefit from having that kind of support because, one, it's confidential, and two, they are trained to deal with whatever you bring to the counseling session. And that is a great place to get support. It's nothing like trying to talk to someone who really just don't get it. They're kind of stuck in their own perspective. They have their own biases and experiences, and they just really don't get where you're coming from. A mental health counselor can help with that. So again, consider checking into a mental health counselor and seeing if you can get that support to get you through this time, because it is very difficult to have invested yourself into a relationship and a person just leaves and you're seeking closure, but they won't give it to you. It can be very difficult. Not impossible to move forward, but it can be challenging. I'm interested to hear your thoughts on rebound relationships. Have you ever done it before? Have you experienced it? Do you know anyone else who has experienced it? I am interested to hear from you. Please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe so that you are aware of every time I upload a new video. Thank you for stopping by, And until next time, please take care of yourself.